Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be taking you through my full body workout I do twice a week on those weeks when I'm very busy. So this is suitable for the 95 girlies. I start with 10 minutes work as my cardio before I move into my dynamic upper body stretch with my resistance band. I start with this overhead bands. These are really good for your shoulder mobility to avoid injuries and sprains. You have to properly warm up your upper body before lifting, this way to signal your muscle that you're about to do some intense work. Okay, so don't skip it. We're doing 2 sets of about 10 to 15 reps. So hand forward, hand back is 1 rep. Then we move into this banded pull apart. This warms up your triceps, your delts, and your biceps. Please don't skip this movement. 2 sets, 15 reps. Then we move straight into the push-ups. Now, there are so many variations of push-ups you can do. For the beginners, I would say stick with the assisted push-ups where you use the bands and your knees. But for the girlies who have been doing this for a while, I would suggest doing full body push-ups like myself here. So the aim is to go for 3 sets of at least 5 reps in each set. Okay, you have to be doing at least 3 sets of each movement to be able to get the best results. So 3 sets, 5 reps each. For beginners, you either do the full body push-ups or you do the assisted push-ups. As you can see, I'm also doing an assisted push-ups here, but I'm using a resistance band on just my arm, but still pushing up my full body from the ground. But for beginners, I would say do the full body push-ups with your knees on the ground, keeping in mind to keep your body at an incline. This is going to help you build upper body strength to be able to progress into a full body push-ups. 3 sets, 5 reps, whether you're doing this variation or the full body variation. So the next movement we are going to be moving into is the lower body dynamic stretch, forward backward leg swings. This is really good for your hip mobility. This way you can avoid injury. You can train your lower body through a full range of motion. You can avoid muscle cramping. You can avoid muscle sprains. Now, this particular movement is really good for engaging your hip flexors. You need to train your hip flexors. That way, when you're squatting, your quads are fully recruited in the movement. So for this movement, we're doing the forward backwards swings is about 8 to 10 reps. You're doing 2 sets, and the hip openers is about forward backward is 1 set. So we're going to be doing at least 5 reps for 2 sets. Okay. You have to keep in mind you have to do this movement for each leg. Whatever amount of reps you do on the left leg is what you should do on the right leg before you move straight into the next dynamic stretch, which is the forward backward lunge. Always make sure to push your joints to a full range of motion as possible. You have to stretch properly. This way you are going to avoid any form of injuries. So for this, you are doing about 7 to 10 reps, 2 sets. Okay, and you go have to do the same on both legs. This is really good for your knee mobility, your ankle mobility, your hip mobility. This way, like I said, we're avoiding injuries, we're avoiding sprains, we're avoiding, basically any discomfort. And this is really great for waking up your muscles before lifting. Take your time when doing your dynamic stretches and warm up. Don't just rush through them. Make sure you're prioritizing, mind to muscle connection when doing your stretches. They are absolutely important. They are just as important as, you lifting the heavy weights. So immediately after this, the next thing we will be going into are these leg raises over the bottle. These are really great for your hip flexors again. These are really great for your hip flexors, because one thing I've noticed is that a lot of people do not train their hip flexors, which is one of the reasons why your quads don't grow. If you want to grow your quads to give yourself that illusion of a wider hips, you need to train your hip flexors properly. Training your hip flexors makes your hip mobility really good. That will also help your squat depth. Okay, because obviously we're training our hamstrings, and if your quads are not properly warmed up, you are not going to hit that muscle groups. If you want the bigger legs, like I do have here, you have to train your hip flexors just as much as your hamstrings. So we're moving that straight into the 1990s. This is really also good for your hip mobility. If you notice, I'm doing a lot of warm up and stretches that are great for your hip mobility. This is also really good for your knee mobility and your ankle mobility too, but mostly great for your hip mobility. If your hips are tight, you cannot grow your legs, so you need to warm up your hips properly. Okay, the next thing we go into is an advanced 1990. Now, for beginners, I would say do the first 1990 you just saw. But for more advanced movement, I would say stick to this movement. But I would say start from the beginner one and work your way up to doing, the 1990s with a body raise. As you can see, I'm still struggling with them, but I'm, working my way up to getting them perfectly. So, like I said, don't rush the movement. Take your time. For this, we're doing 2 sets of about 8 reps. Now, 8 reps include front and back is 1 rep. So we're doing about 2 sets of 5 to 8 reps. So the next thing we're going into is this glute activation workout with heavy hip resistance band. You put the band above your knee, then you go into a kickback superset with donkey kicks. Okay, so what you're going to be doing is at least 2 sets of 6 to 8 reps for this particular movement with the band, depending on how much time you have. This is what is going to make sure your glutes minimus and your glutes medius is properly activated before you start lifting. Obviously, it targets your hamstring and your glute max. That's by doing the kickbacks. But the donkey kick is going to make sure that your minimus and your medius are fully recruited when training your legs. Because if you want the illusion of a wider hip, for my hip girlies with more prominent hip dips, you really need to start training, your glutes minimus and your glutes minimus just as much as you train your glute max. So this movement is really great for activating all 3 major muscles in your glutes and your hamstrings also. Take your time when performing this movement. 2 sets, 6 to 8 reps. But as you advance, I would say 2 sets, 10 reps, or you increase to 3 sets of 10 reps as you advance, because they're actually quite, tedious. By the look of my face, you will tell that it is actually burning, but these are really good and I don't skip them. They are a staple for me when training legs. So now, the first movement I will always go for are my bent over rows to hit my back. I always start with this because I realize that I always compromise on my form when I do this towards the end of my workouts when I'm already tired. So I tend to get this hinge movement out of the way. Bent over rows superset with RDL. This way I am hitting my hamstrings and my back at my fullest, when my energy level is at the most peak. For this, I'm doing 15 reps of bent over rows and 15 reps of RDLs is a superset. So I'm going to be doing 3 sets of 15 for each of these movements. 3 sets of 15. I'm taking my time, as you can see, pushing my hips backward when doing my RDL. 3 sets 15 is my go to. But as a beginner, I would say start up with at least 3 sets of 8. Then if you have a busy day and either you are going out of the house or you're coming back home and you really just want to get in a good workout from this, I would just say do 15 reps and move on to the next movement. You don't necessarily have to do 3 sets of 15. You can start with just 15 reps, then progressively overload as you go. The next movement, which is also my last major lift I like to do, is squats. Now, one thing about my squats is that I always prioritize depth, because that way I don't just hit my quads, my glutes and my hamstring are also recruited during the squat. So deep squats is really, really good for this, which is one of the reasons why we prioritize a lot of hip mobility workout, so that we can get this kind of depth. If you don't know, I am 6'2". So for a 6'2" woman to be going this deep with her squats, it takes time and time and consistency. Doing my hip mobility workout to be able to get this much depth and build this much growth in my legs, this much visible growth. It takes time. So back squats, one of my favorite, leg day workouts for growing my quads, my hamstring, my glute max. One of my favorite leg workouts, if not entirely my favorite workout, followed by the hip thrust. So we push 15 reps. We're doing 3 sets of 15 reps. But if you don't have the time, like I said, do only 15 reps and move on to the next workout. You don't necessarily have to train like I do. You just have to start, somewhere. So 15 reps, 3 sets, 15 reps, and I move straight into the calf raises where I do about 15 reps. 3 sets of 15 like my other routine. But like I said, if you don't have time, get in 15 and go on about your day. So I take my time with my calf raises because obviously this is really great for, strengthening your ankle and strengthening your knee, also obviously building your calf muscle. Calf raises are really great for them. So I always end up every single workout I do with a core workout. Every single set I do, I follow it up with a core workout. And my go-to core workout when I'm rushing is, the standing matches, one weight above my head and one weight on my side. I tend to switch the hands. I carry the weight on from time to time depending on the set, but I'm doing 3 sets. I'm doing 10 reps at the end of each set, okay? 10 reps at the end of each set. Doesn't matter if I'm doing RDL, bent over rows, the squats. Every single set, I always end it with the standing matches so I can fully, train my core without doing too much. Now, these are not compulsory. These are what I love to call around the walls. They really, really hit my obliques. I really want more defined obliques personally, but that's just a personal goal of mine. Doing the standing match is just fine, but if you want to put in the around the world after your standing matches, that's completely up to you. I hope this routine helps someone, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.